So for my topic, this date might ring a bell with some people in the room, and this was the date that the island went into our first lockdown. Along with as many COVID measures got put in place, the use of face coverings was one of them. At the end of March 2020, the term masking appeared on Twitter as a way of describing, especially those who work in the healthcare sector who experienced an increase of irritation, particularly around the area that their mask covered. So, from my initial research, when searching the term masking on Google, a lot of what came up was articles from Marie Claire and Cosmopolitan, who, in essence, were getting paid to promote expensive skincare to those looking to cure their facial acne that had arisen from supposedly wearing a face covering. Another big part of this was the amount of waste that we were seeing of disposable face coverings in the street making their way into the environment, because they were disposed of correctly. And I wanted to get hands-on and have a little look to see if I could find any of my own information out, collect my own data, and see if even reusing a face covering, whether it had a lifespan, if I could rewear it numerous times, and see whether that landed me, whether there was any bacterial contamination that could result in an increase of facial acne. So my methodology, so over 4 days, I will say same face covering for 4 hours under the same conditions. So I wore it to work, I worked in pharmacy, and this is me, to save any ethical considerations being put in place. I was the lab rat and I was vulnerable to anything that's going to go on. And we used 84 of these swabs with 7 different variables throughout the day, each of which has 3 replicates to try and avoid any anomalies coming out of the data. So of the 7 areas I swabbed for my face both in the morning and in the afternoon, the inside of the mask both in the morning and the afternoon. I took a buccal swab morning and afternoon, and I also took a swab from the tap which I used to wash my face in the morning to see if we had any contamination coming from the environment that could affect the data that I collected. So after collecting the swabs, I took my swabs to Taxa, where Rachel and the team helped me extract the genetic information from the samples and replicate it using PCR, which some of you might know of a PCR test for COVID. Just means that the sample's replicated enough for it to be found in the sample. Each sample was then given its own barcode. This is something that it's called 16S metagenomic sequencing, but it's just a fancy name for sticking a label on it and hoping we can find what's going on with it. And then all that information was put through a system that sent it to, referenced it against the National Centre for Biotechnology Information. We have a big database of all these barcodes that can pinpoint which bacteria is which off their genetic information. So my results from my initial research, I knew that I was looking for a particular strain of bacteria or two. However, of my results, this is what I got from the program called Epidemics, and these were the most, these were what appeared most in the data that I collected. Interestingly, none of which I expected to see. So it is likely that they have come from either the inside of my mouth or from the tap itself, contamination. Some of them are normally found within the soil and stuff, so it makes sense coming from a tap that comes through the water system. But this did leave me a bit baffled. This wasn't what I was expecting, which led me to reject my null hypothesis, which was that reusing a face covering would increase the likelihood of having an effect on the development or worsen of facial acne. So I'd like to believe that my project has had an impact in some sense, whether that is to create a scientific fact amongst all these articles that are offering hundreds of pounds worth of skincare to someone that just wants to know what's going on with their skin at the time. And I like to think that in the future this can be used for others to do further research from, whether it's myself or other people that are interested in the topic. And there are certain variables that I'd like to change if I was to do this again. One of which being the amount of time I ran ages and genders and those working in different settings and environments. Whether the data that we collected from their masks or their faces, would that differ from, say, mine or someone else's, would be something that would be worth looking at. And especially a limitation of my research was the fact that information under 4,000 reads was cut, so I don't know necessarily what the whole extent of the microbiome of my face was or the inside of my mouth. I don't know that for certain, so it might be worth potentially taking off like those limits and then exploring it as a whole. It would take a lot longer and it would need a lot more going through and crossing off what was relevant and whatnot, but it might be interesting to see what I was expecting then materialise. And something else I'm sure you've seen in every shop and on Facebook is people selling all these different types of reusable masks, whether using a different type of mask would increase or decrease the likelihood of developing facial acne. So that's that, but I'm welcome to any questions. Try and answer them to my best of my ability. Give it a go.